Now let's begin with the thyroid gland. Well, thyroid gland is associated with pharynx, that is this portion, neck portion, right? So it is the largest endocrine gland, it is 5 into 3 centimeter and it weighs around 25 grams. So thyroid gland is the largest endocrine gland. Now if you look at the image of the thyroid gland, see, it is located on the ventral and lateral sides of trachea, just below the larynx in the neck. So in the neck, if you see here, just below the larynx and on the lateral and ventral sides of the trachea, trachea is what? It is a windpipe. You see this gland, that is what? The thyroid gland. So where it is located? It is just located below the larynx on the lateral and ventral sides of the windpipe, that is the trachea, right? So how does this appears to you? Now it is brownish red in color, as you can see in the image again, and it is somewhat butterfly shaped, right? It's a brownish red butterfly shaped largest gland of a body. What is it? It is the thyroid gland. Now if we talk about this organ, it's a bilobed organ. It is what? It is a bilobed organ and it develops from the endoderm of the embryo. From the inner layer, it develops from the endoderm of the embryo. Now it is well supplied with blood vessels. So there are lot of blood vessels, so it is well supplied with blood vessels, and the two lobes are connected by narrow structure called isthmus. And the two lobes, since it's a bilobed organ, it has two lobes. The two lobes are connected by a stalk-like structure that we call as isthmus. And it's the only gland, thyroid gland is the only gland that stores hormones in large quantities for about 2 months. It's the largest endocrine gland and it is the only gland that stores what? It stores what? It stores hormones in large quantities for about 2 months. So this was about a general introduction about the thyroid gland. Where it is located? It is located below the larynx, just below the larynx on the sides of the trachea, right? So this is the largest endocrine gland. You can see it is brownish red butterfly shaped gland which is two lobed. It has two lobes and these two lobes are joined by a stalk. That stalk is called isthmus. Then if we talk about the hormones that are secreted by the thyroid gland, there are, you can say, basically 3 hormones that are secreted by the thyroid gland. But remember, the secretion from the thyroid gland, it is regulated by TSH, which you also call as thyrotropin. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone, right? So this TSH, it is going to help in the stimulation, or you can say the secretion of hormones by the thyroid gland. Now from where this TSH is secreted, or you can say thyrotropin is secreted, it is secreted from the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland which is there in near the hypothalamus, it is going to release this TSH, which in turn is going to stimulate the release of the hormones from the thyroid gland. So the 3 hormones of the thyroid gland are thyroxine, that is T4, you also call it as tetraiodothyronin. Then we have triiodothyronin, that is T3. Then we have thyrocalcitonin, that is TCT, or you can simply call it as calcitonin. So these are the 3 hormones of the thyroid gland, that is T3, T4 and calcitonin. Now why do we write as T3 and T4? Because T4 has 4 iodine atoms and T3 has what? 3 iodine atoms. So based on the number of iodine atoms that are attached to the amino acid tyrosine, the names are given. So the thyroxine hormone and this T3 hormone, these hormones are made from what? They are chemically tyrosine amino acid attached to iodine. So if we talk about the attachment of 3 iodine atoms, it makes what? The triiodothyronin hormone. If we talk about the attachment of 4 iodine atoms to tyrosine, it means we are talking about tetraiodothyronin. So this T4 is less active than T3. However, T3 is secreted in very less amounts, but it is more active and more potent as compared to T4. Now what happens, this T4 can be converted into T3 by losing one iodine atom. So that is why in the liver and the kidneys this T4 is converted into T3 just by losing one iodine atom. That is why we call both these hormones, that is the T4 hormone and the T3 hormone, as the thyroid hormone. We call both of them as collectively as thyroid hormone, right? And then we have this hormone, that is the thyrocalcitonin. Now this is actually a peptide which is composed of 32 amino acids. It is a peptide which is composed of 32 amino acids. It is secreted, when the calcium level is high in the blood. So the main role of thyrocalcitonin is to prevent osteoporosis. What is osteoporosis? Osteoporosis occurs when there is loss of, you can say, calcium and phosphorus from the bones of your body. So to prevent that loss, this hormone prevents osteoporosis by just lowering calcium by suppressing its release from the bones. So this hormone, thyrocalcitonin or calcitonin, simply it is going to suppress the release of calcium from your bones, hence preventing the disorder, that is osteoporosis. So this hormone, that is thyrocalcitonin, remember, it is secreted by very special cells, that is a parafollicular cells or C cells of this thyroid gland. The thyrocalcitonin is secreted by which cells? The parafollicular or C cells of the thyroid gland. Now if we talk about the functions of T3 and T4, these thyroid hormones, what do we see? Well, these two hormones, they regulate the basal metabolic rate. What is basal metabolic rate? Basal metabolic rate is the rate of cellular oxidation when the body is at rest. So during the body at rest, the basal metabolic rate is regulated by what? By these two hormones, that is T3 and T4. Now they have many other functions also. They actually stimulate protein synthesis, then they develop mental faculties, they maintain body temperature, they help in metamorphosis. What is metamorphosis? For example, if you talk about frog, the tadpole of the frog is changed into adult frog by the process that we call as metamorphosis. So this hormone, these hormone, that is T3 and T4, they help in metamorphosis. So if from the tadpole of the frog, thyroid gland is removed, then that tadpole, that larval stage of the frog will not be changed into adult frog. So you can make out how important this thyroid gland is for the development, for the growth of the body, right? So as a whole, you can say that this hormone, that is the thyroid hormone as a whole, it is going to help in the growth of the body, in the development of the body. Then it increases action of the neurotransmitters like adrenal and noradrenaline. So there are neurotransmitters in the body, right? So the action is increased by this thyroid hormones. So increased action of neurotransmitters is there when there is secretion of the thyroid hormone. Remember, I am using the term thyroid hormone for both, for T3 also and for T4 also. So you can just make out these hormones are so very important, right? And one thing more, the thyroid hormones, they actually control weight of your body. For example, if there is increased secretion of the thyroid hormone, then there will be weight loss in your body. And if there is decreased secretion of thyroid hormone, then you will suffer from obesity. You will become obese, right? So remember that increased secretion of thyroid hormone leads to loss in weight, and decreased secretion of thyroid hormone will lead to what? Obesity, right? So you can just make out how the thyroid hormone controls many important functions of our body. So remember that we have three hormones, that is T3, T4 and calcitonin, and we have discussed the functions, right? And remember that these thyroid hormones, they regulate in fact the basal metabolic rate, the metabolic rate that is there when the body is at rest. So these hormones have very important functions to perform actually. And the function of calcitonin is Very important, because this hormone is going to control osteoporosis. How this hormone is going to control osteoporosis? Because it is going to suppress the release of calcium from the bones, calcium and phosphorus both from the bones. So if there is no loss of calcium from the bones, then you will not suffer from the disorder, that is osteoporosis. And remember, the level of the calcium is regulated by which hormone? That is calcitonin, or you can also call it as thyrocalcitonin, TCT. So I hope that the hormones and the structure of thyroid gland is now clear to you. Now let's see what are the disorders that we will suffer when the release of hormones is not the amount that is required by the body. So we need to also understand how the hyposecretion or the hypersecretion of the hormones of the thyroid gland